Well, in order to answer that question, we need to understand what cybersecurity actually entails. So, in the approach that we have at Chatham House, but also in my corporate engagements, we're looking at three different pillars of cybersecurity which you need to address in order to fortress your operations. These three pillars is, of course, technology, so using specific state-of-the-art technology in order to be prepared against cyber attacks, but also people and processes. You need to raise awareness within your organization because usually people are considered the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity, so they need to be aware of what is at stake. But also, it's the third pillar, which in a way interlinks the other two. It's the processes, how people can use the technology that has been installed. So it's an ongoing process and it needs a holistic approach in order to fortress your logistic operation. We talk mainly to IT people because in most organizations, cybersecurity is an IT problem. The IT people do understand what is at stake, but it's difficult to having that senior management commitment in order to spend specific resources, people allocation, also budget allocation and time allocation in order to tackle cybersecurity. So you're spot on. It is a top-down approach and that's the way forward. Well, what port environments need to understand, and this is again from the feedback that we have from the industry, is they do not operate in isolation. They have assets coming in, such as ships mainly, which are connected to the port IT or OT infrastructure, but they also have third-party vendors, which come into the port and use the existing IT and OT infrastructure in order to do the business. So it's not only protecting your core infrastructure, but it's also looking at the periphery. So when you're looking at an asset taxonomy, it needs to be on layers. The core, the periphery, and the edge, as we call it. Well, what we're seeing is that when you rely on IoT devices, but also cloud services, in most cases, the cybersecurity element, it's not in your hands, it's in the vendor's hand. So you need to do your due diligence well in advance before selecting a specific service or a specific device. Chip is not always the best option. So you need to look and prioritize what are the ways of illustrating cybersecurity by design in those specific devices and services. Well, there's no clear answer to that. It depends. The big ports, which have the capacity to deal with cybersecurity, I would say that they're at a very good, mature level. But the smaller ports, mainly around Europe, which facilitate maybe sometimes cruise ships, for example, or small cargo ships, they don't have the luxury to invest in cyber. So even if they do understand that there is a problem there, then it's difficult to have the resources available in order to deal with that problem. And what now the European Union is doing, specifically ENISA, where we work with them, is looking at creating a cyber risk maturity self-assessment model for all ports in the industry. So in a way, it's solving the problem, it's giving them the ready solution to implement in their small port ecosystems. Well, networking is of course the core of such events, but it's also important to try and see what is the state of the art in specific topics when we're talking about smart ports. Because it may seem as a niche topic, but it actually isn't. Smart ports cover a huge variety of topics, from environmental to cybersecurity and several others in between. So knowing what is out there and having a place like this to share that knowledge is the best way forward. Well, the buzzword is digital transformation, and that means several things. It's open to interpretation, but in our minds, the approach is look at your port ecosystem specifically, look what are your needs, and then try to address those specific needs. So don't get carried away by the buzzwords, but try and look at the specific problems that you have as an entity.